Media Britannica.
I'm Shelley Long, inviting you to watch Rites of Passage, a Family Works special presentation.
Tonight at 6:30, only on TV 13.
Find out what a difference you can make. Join the Volunteer Connection.
Good morning. A new report on AIDS and teenagers. The number of victims is rising rapidly.
I was 16 years old and thought I was invincible.
We will talk with parents and children who face the disease. Confrontation at Caterpillar. Does competing abroad mean cutting wages at home? And Winnie Mandela. In South Africa, new accusations about murder, her fall from grace.
This is Sunday Today with Garrick Utley, Mary Alice Williams, and Al Roker.
And we all hope it's a very good Sunday morning for all of you, wherever you may be, and you'll be spending the next 90 minutes with us here on Sunday Today. We have a lot lined up.
On this glorious Palm Sunday, despite the weather.
That's right. Some folks' palms are going to be cold, some blowing around a lot, some very wet. We got some heavy weather happening right now in Texas, and we got some very chilly weather in the Northeast.
We saw some of the stories we'll be dealing with this morning in the program, but also going to meet an interesting journalist.
That's right, Anna Quinlan, who won the most coveted prize in journalism, the Pulitzer.
And she has some strong opinions she'll be sharing about some of the topics of the day. Also, this is the 250th anniversary of Handel's Messiah. It was performed at a charity in Dublin, Ireland. A time to say hallelujah, but we'll let somebody else sing hallelujah.
Al's going to sing.
No.
All right. Before we get to that and the rest of the program, let's check in on this morning's news. There's a good bit of it. First of all, in this country, there's a new congressional report out. It was issued last night, and it shows that there's a dramatic growth of AIDS among America's teenagers, and it says that not enough is being done to stop that spread of AIDS. The report is based on findings by the Centers for Disease Control. Our correspondent Henry Champ is in Washington this morning with the latest details. Henry?
Good morning, Garrick. According to the committee, millions of American teenagers are running the risk of contracting AIDS, and that because the federal government doesn't have enough money or the programs to help them.
Consider the statistics. In the last 2 years, a 77% increase in AIDS among teenagers. 9,000 now have AIDS, thousands and thousands more the HIV virus. There are TV commercials promoting the use of condoms. Some schools have AIDS programs and seminars. But still the evidence, the message isn't getting through.
Hey, it's hard. I'm a parent, and there's nothing harder than trying to deal with that. But your children could die. They don't have the information.
The report says by age 20, 68% of all females and 86% of all males are sexually active. And nearly 25% say they have had 6 or more partners. Experts agree the message is not loud enough.
One of the fastest ways is to have adolescents talk to other adolescents.
Krista Blake agrees. She learned she had HIV at 18 and now spends much time talking to teenage groups.
Adults have this really bad habit of saying one thing and doing another, or setting up double standards. And kids know that, and so they don't trust them.
Also infected, Miami's Pedro Zamora, and he too agrees.
And the fact is that there's a virus out there. And the fact is that you could get it through a sexual contact.
The report gives very little relief to any parent, finding that the spread of AIDS is moving equally through all geographic areas and economic stratas of this country. Garrick?
Well, Henry, the report criticizes the government for not doing more to spread the information, but isn't really the ultimate responsibility with parents who must talk with their kids about safe sex and AIDS?
Well, certainly it is, but this country has a long history of avoidance of that subject. According to the report, most Americans have learned about sexual activity from their parents. The minority of 8 Republicans who didn't agree with the report say they don't want more government programs. They want money to go towards strengthening of the family unit and the promotion of sexual abstinence. But sexual abstinence alone doesn't seem to be very real in the face of the current American sexual activity among teens.
All right, Henry Champ in Washington, thank you. Turning elsewhere, at the United Nations in New York City this morning, a tense standoff between police and a woman who doused herself with gasoline and is threatening to set herself on fire. The woman is Lynn Gunther of Berkeley, California, and she says she's protesting war and taxes. She's still seated in the van. She drove into the grounds of the UN Saturday morning. She has a container of gasoline with her. She says she also has explosives, but police say they now doubt that. Overseas, the Irish Republican Army says the massive car bomb that killed 3 people and injured 90 on Friday night in London is just the start of a new campaign of terror. The reason? The election defeat of the man who heads the IRA's political wing. Conservative Prime Minister John Major returned to power in that election, and he has shaken up his cabinet, putting his personal stamp on it rather than Margaret Thatcher's, his predecessor. In London, here's Margaret Larson.
Perhaps nothing in the last decade has better illustrated the U.S.-British alliance than Operation Desert Storm. Conservative Party Prime Minister John Major's flash-fire come-from-behind victory ensures America has not lost its principal coalition partner.
Basically, Major's very pro-American, as Mrs. Thatcher was before him. This is a very pro-American vote, if you like.
Margaret Thatcher, like Major and all of Britain's prime ministers since World War II, highly valued her ties with America. But she was not, and Major is not, a sidekick.
They disagreed with Ronald Reagan and with George Bush, but they disagreed in private. And that is the basis of a good relationship between true friends.
Britain is over the election glitz now, with nearly 40% of the electorate brooding over Major's win.
I think the British people have made a big mistake.
We're not happy about it. What more can I say?
The Prime Minister is also saddled with Britain's longest-running recession in 3 decades and a parliament with more than 30 new opposition party members. All of this means Major needs his allies at home and overseas more than ever, a feeling likely to be reciprocated by whoever occupies the White House after the American elections. Margaret Larson, NBC News, London.
And back in this country, some of the jurors who convicted Manuel Noriega of drug charges are starting to talk a bit about what happened inside the jury room. The best evidence, according to one juror, came from Colombian cartel member Carlos Later, who is now in prison. At first, 2 jurors were for acquittal, but after 5 days, the guilty verdict was unanimous. And now that Noriega is gone, what's next for Panama? Here's Ed Rabel.
Panamanians are joyful over the conviction, but they are worried about where their country is headed.
Well, is in troubled waters, heading for an ambiguous future.
Getting rid of Noriega stopped illegal drugs from reaching America through Panama, right? Wrong. Drug smuggling still is going strong, and it may be on the increase. And the narcotics problem is reaching deep inside Panama, too.
Bueno, sí, bastante.
There's a lot of crime, he says. Shootings, drugs, lots of drugs. There is no work, she says. No hay trabajo. Guillermo Endara, Panama's democratically elected president, gets much of the blame. Opponents say he is terribly inept. By treaty, the highly lucrative Panama Canal must be turned over to Panama in 1999. The U.S. must also turn over military bases, which are worth $100 million. But Panama may not be prepared to receive these huge prizes because the government has failed to develop a plan for the takeover. Unless it gets ready, and unless it addresses the needs of its poor, analysts believe Panama, one of the most strategic nations in this hemisphere, may be headed for chaos, riots, perhaps even revolution. Ed Rabel, NBC News, Panama.
And now we turn to the top cultural story of this day. Yes, Mickey Mouse has arrived in Paris, France, along with a great many other of the Disney characters. It's the official opening of Euro Disneyland, the first day of a $4.4 billion gamble that Europe will take to Disney the way America's taking the Disney characters. And despite some critics, the French public turned out in force. The predicted traffic jams didn't happen. And so Le Kingdom Magique is off to a good start. And we will have a full, in-depth, penetrating study of all the implications of that later in the program this morning.
Now for the weather. Are there sodden Easter bonnets in the forecast?
Well, most people have left them inside until next weekend. So we're hoping by next weekend we'll be talking about sunshine. But good morning, everybody. We're talking about some rough weather, especially down south this morning. Take a look. We'll show you that we've got a storm watch in effect for much of northern Texas, also southern and eastern Oklahoma. Until 10 a.m., we have a severe thunderstorm watch in effect for Central Daylight Time, and this could have some very, very strong weather with it, so we're going to keep an eye on that for you. As we take a look at the rest of the country, here's how it's shaping up. As you'll see, basically, what we're looking at, you can see those showers and some fog working its way back through the midsection of the country on into the eastern seaboard. Heavy thunderstorms down in Florida. Sunshine up and around the Great Lakes. It's going to be chilly there. Showers continue in New York and also New England. We've also got some wet weather moving its way into the northwest. Nice spot is going to be down in the southwest with plenty of sunshine and afternoon temperatures there. in those warm conditions. So as we take a look, here's what's happening in your neck of the woods. We're expecting a high today, 60 degrees in Seattle. They're going to have 75 degrees. Sunshine in Los Angeles, 80 degrees in Miami, Florida, 57 degrees in New York City, and showers. Just about coming up now, we'll have a little bit more weather in the next half hour. Guys?
Thanks, Al. And when we come back, this week we heard a term not often heard outside the medical community, co-patient. In a moment, we're going to be talking to some people who know what it's like to live with AIDS.
Sunday Today is brought to you in part by GE. From aircraft engines to appliances, we bring good things to life.
The people of Tokyo, like people everywhere, know their future depends upon getting more electricity in a cleaner, more economical way. To get it, they turn to GE, the world leader in gas and steam turbine technology. When Tokyo Electric Power gave GE our largest export order ever, it gave Tokyo the largest, most efficient power plant of its kind in the world, which means more jobs for our people back home and a better future for the people of Japan. A message to everyone who flies from American Airlines. Starting Monday, April 13th, American introduces a dramatic new pricing program that brings true value back to air travel. It all begins with American's new Anytime Fare for Business, which saves you 38% off today's full coach fare, any day, on any American or American Eagle domestic flight, with no advance purchase required. For leisure travel, you can save even more with our new 7-day and 21-day plan-ahead fares. While these fares are non-refundable, they are now reusable. Finally, our new first-class fare saves you 20 to 50% throughout the continental U.S. This is not a sale. This is a straightforward pricing approach that has been long overdue in the airline industry. A new way of doing business from American Airlines, the one airline bringing value back to air travel.
Staggering numbers on AIDS this weekend. A congressional panel says the fastest growing group of AIDS victims is teenagers, 9,000 of them, a 70% increase in just 2 years. That means 70% more families are learning to deal with what tennis great Arthur Ashe called being a co-patient. Once again, it took the courage of one celebrity to refocus AIDS on the family.
In any situation like this, your spouse is a co-patient, whether you like it or not. And I think the more the medical community and people in general look at it that way, psychologically, Jeannie has AIDS, psychologically, although she is HIV negative and obviously...
And so's Camera.
And so's Camera, yes.
They will live with the knowledge that Arthur will die too young. There are thousands of families like them who must confront issues we can only guess at, who can only help each other through it minute to minute. As Jeannie helped Arthur through the one moment at his news conference when his eloquence was shaken by emotion. It was the moment he spoke of his daughter.
Camera already knows that perfect strangers come up to Daddy on the street and say hi. Even though we've begun preparing Camera for this news, beginning tonight, Arthur and I must teach her how to react to new, different, and sometimes cruel comments that have very little to do with her reality.
America is learning to deal with the cruel reality of AIDS and mourn the deaths of many people we've come to know. But when Perry Ellis left the fashion world, few of us knew he was also leaving a baby daughter. Ryan White's epic battle to end the stigma of AIDS ended his life leaving a sister behind. Imagine how Magic Johnson's bride felt when she learned the father of the child she was carrying was HIV positive.
The quality of one's life changes irrevocably when something like this becomes public. Reason and rational thought are too often waived out of fear, out of caution, or out of just plain ignorance. My family and I must now learn a new set of behavioral standards to function in the everyday world.
For a child, the role of co-patient is especially difficult. They confront issues of mortality no child should face. With us now is Jeanette Augusto. You are 10 years old, and your mother, and your father, and your sister are all infected.
Yeah, my real father is not, and he lives in California.
But your mom's husband is infected.
Yeah.
How does your life change every day now from before everybody got sick?
Well, before they were starting to get like they are now, Tim lived with us. My dad lived with us. But in June of 1991, they got divorced because Mom was going to lose all her benefits. So,
But for you, Jeanette, how do your days differ?
It's hard, I mean, because now I have to think, oh no, is Autumn going to be okay when I get home? Is she going to be there to meet me where we're supposed to meet? Did she pass out in school? Is she okay? Did she fall? Did she get hurt?
You were pretty angry at first when you found out about it. How do you feel about your parents now?
I'm very grateful that they did tell me, and I love them very much, and I hope they're just around for a couple more years at least.
You do a lot of educating with other kids. How do you tell them, what's the most important thing that people should know about living with a parent who has AIDS?
That you cannot get AIDS unless you've been born with it. It's sexually transmitted, blood-to-blood contact, or that's it, or body fluids.
And that people shouldn't be afraid of it, huh?
Yeah.
You're very lucky to have an aunt who loves you very much, who you love, who's going to take care of you later.
Yeah.
Do you think about what life is going to be like?
I can't imagine it. I really can't imagine what it's going to be like when they're gone.
What would you tell Camera Ash now, Arthur Ashe's little girl? She's only 5.
It's going to be real hard, but she must deal with it. She must be there for her father, and she shouldn't be afraid of it. Denial is very common, but don't mind the age jokes and the gay jokes. They don't mean anything. They're just, if you say they're coming from people who don't know a lot about AIDS and still have a lot of room to learn.
How do you help other kids understand AIDS?
I explained to him how my mother and my sister got it, how...
Your mother got it and then transmitted it to your little sister, Autumn.
My mother got it from Autumn's father, and Autumn got it from Mom.
Tell you what, you stay right here, Jeanette, and when we come back, we're going to be talking to some people who have a slightly different perspective on this. Okay?
Okay.
Recently, DuPont announced that its energy unit Conoco would pioneer the use of new double-hulled oil tankers in order to safeguard the environment. The response has been overwhelmingly positive. DuPont, better things for better living.
In 1902, a new company changed the way America thought about the automobile. Now, on our 90th anniversary, Cadillac continues this tradition with the award-winning Seville STS, the limited edition Stars and Stripes Eldorado, and the advanced new Alante, pace car of the Indianapolis 500. Join the celebration at your Cadillac dealer now. It could change the way you think about American automobiles.
For Des Moines General Hospital, I'm Jack Witzel with another Job Changers quiz. Yes or no?
will the healthcare industry become the nation's largest employer in the 1990s? My comments after this word from Alex Oponsky for Des Moines General Hospital. Alex?
Hello, Jack. Des Moines General Hospital is a modern medical facility ready to meet your medical needs. We offer the latest in patient care techniques, a respected teaching facility, and great career opportunity for full and part-time medical professionals. If your education or experience is in nursing, pharmacy, radiology, laboratory, or respiratory therapy, please call us at the Human Resource Department here at Des Moines General Hospital, 263-4843. Jack, in answer to your question, I'd have to say yes.
Well, Alex, that's right. Modern medicine has become a vast system of technology for both professional and support workers. Today, the medical field is exploding with many new support positions. It deserves your career consideration. For Des Moines General Hospital, I'm Jack Witzel.
Joining Garrick and me and Jeanette Augusto is Dr. Peter Hendrickson, who is a psychologist and author who specializes in treating HIV patients and their families.
Good morning.
Good morning. First, I want you to meet someone else, Matthew Hart, whose wife and both of whose children have AIDS.
Correct.
Matthew, how did AIDS come into your life?
Very surprisingly. A year ago, February 91, our daughter was suffering from pneumonia. And after being admitted to the hospital, it took them a couple days to conclude that the type of pneumonia she had was pneumocystis. And once they concluded that, they automatically made an AIDS diagnosis in her situation. My wife and my son and myself were all tested as a result of that, because typically when a child has it, the most likely transmission was from the mother. But they wanted to make sure that it hadn't been transmitted to the other family members. But of the four of us, 3 did test positive for the HIV antibodies. And once they did conclude that that was the case, they did further tests to decide whether or not, the immune system had been greatly affected or minimally affected. And therefore, my wife and my son actually have an HIV positive diagnosis, and my daughter has an AIDS diagnosis.
Well, being the only one in the family who doesn't have this, obviously the pain is there, the shock is there, but how do you deal with it? Are you angry? Feel cheated?
Not anymore. Phil, at the onset of it, you feel like it's an automatic death sentence. You think that since in our situation, our daughter was diagnosed while she was in the hospital and she was in critical condition in intensive care, you think you're not going to leave the hospital with her. But the reality of it is that they have made great advancements in the way they can treat patients with HIV or AIDS, and they did a wonderful job in our case. And they also, at that time, linked us up with certain support networks, which proved to be incredibly beneficial for us. That made it easier to deal with.
For example, with Peter. I mean, Peter, you deal with people like Matthew and his family all the time. What do you tell them?
Well, the fact is some families are strengthened when HIV and AIDS comes into the family, and others find that the AIDS and HIV infection leads to more pain, more isolation. It's not easy, but looking at someone like Jeanette, going out, talking to other children, not being ashamed of anything, that's empowering. It strengthens the family. Now, obviously, not all families are in a position to give talks around the state of Maine, but the fact is, when people can face their own fears and face the situation and all the feelings of the fears about illness and death and social stigma, they're strengthened. And people, when they come together, gain a lot.
Matthew, when I spoke to you on the phone on Friday, you hadn't told your children's school or your next-door neighbor or your aunts and uncles and grandparents. Why are you now coming on television to talk about this?
Well, I think that, for me, the co-patient issue that you mentioned in our phone conversation on Friday with regard to Arthur Ashe making that co-patient a name that's probably going to stick around now, he's right, and he said it so eloquently. His wife and daughter are co-patients in the sense that they deal with the exact same range of emotions that he does. He is going to have to deal with certain repercussions from being public. Yet, I'm hoping that doing programs like this will help those repercussions become more minimal. I think that oftentimes the fear of going public is greater in our minds than it may really be. People seem to be becoming a little bit more accepting to the fact that you can live with HIV and that it's not a disease that is selective, that is being given to people that, quote, deserve it or something of that nature. My family, I feel, are innocent.
It's just there.
It's just there, right.
We listen to Matthew, we listen to what Jeanette, what's been happening in her story. Peter, coming back to you, you are a psychologist, but it's not clinical advice that you're giving because you know this firsthand.
Right. I mean, I found out 5 years ago that I'm HIV positive, and I see an HIV positive diagnosis as a challenge to live fully. At the time, the doctor said I may well be dead in 5 years. The reality is I've had 5 wonderful years. I haven't missed a day's work. I've had a very rich time emotionally, spiritually, interpersonally, professionally.
How is your family coping with this, Peter?
Well, the other thing is, as important it is for me to say the value of being public about it and facing it, it took me a few years to tell my parents, and it's been difficult in a sense, but I find that if I give a message of strength, the response is strength. I live partly in upstate New York, and a local paper there wanted to do an article about me. I hesitated for a year about letting them do the article. The paper came out, the article, there was nothing but support from the community, and I worried about hostility in the video store, hostility in the grocery store, nothing but kindness all around.
Jeanette, you've been listening to what Matthew and Peter have been saying, and the thing we hear again and again, what you yourself have said, is the importance to go out and talk about it, the importance of being strong, of standing up to this. But from time to time, do you have moments when you're alone, or do you go and talk to the rest of your family with doubts?
Yeah. I don't really talk to my family about the doubts most of the time. Well, I'll talk to him, but most of the time I'll take my friends because my mom's busy, or she doesn't really need to deal with the negative doubts that I have at
What are
times.
the negative doubts, huh? What are you most afraid of?
That autumn, Mom will not live. They'll die on me, and it's just like, are they going to be there when I get home from school today?
Well, Jeanette, we all share that. We all understand that. Matthew, we want to thank you for coming in and sharing your experience, really the first time. And Peter, too, and good luck.
Thank you.
And we want to, for those of you who may have questions, I think there are a lot of questions, we have a hotline number. We want to put it up on the screen for you right now. It is the National AIDS hotline number, 1-800-342-AIDS. There it is. And, of course, they're prepared to answer your questions, a subject that is not going away. And we'll continue here on Sunday Today in just a moment. We'll be right back.
At BASF, we don't make the plane. We make it lighter. We don't make the lotion. We make it smoother. We don't make the dress. We make it brighter. We don't make the carpet. We make it tougher. At BASF, we don't make a lot of the products you buy. We make a lot of the products you buy better. BASF.
It began not with a clean sheet of paper, but with a 75-year history. A history of building automobiles that make the most of the driver's skill. Because how you drive is as important as what you drive, BMW introduces a car that could improve both. The BMW 325 IS Coupe.
It's hipper and more aggressive, says Time magazine. TV Guide calls their reporting solid, their interviews charged. He's morning television's top interviewer, says the Miami Herald. And she's been selected the best anchor of the morning by the Washington Journalism Review. Find out what the critics are raving about. Today, the best way to start your day.
Slumberland's Mattress Plus means a great service policy, guaranteed low prices, next day delivery guaranteed. We'll haul away your old mattress. And Mattress Plus means we'll exchange it or buy it back if you're not totally satisfied. And right now, don't miss April's greatest mattress and recliner sale. Save 20 to 50% on every recliner. Over 100 on sale starting at just $169. Every mattress is reduced 30 to 60%. Twins from just $39 each piece. Even a special bonus with select brands. But hurry, sale ends Monday at Slumberland Furniture.
People say Ember's Steak and Eggs platter is the best they've ever had. 2 farm-fresh eggs, 3 buttermilk pancakes, hashed brown potatoes, and a USDA choice sirloin steak, only $3.99. Come and see if you don't agree. There's only one place for food this good. Embers. Only Embers.
Now here on Sunday Today, the Sunday morning, we'll be talking about Winnie Mandela in South Africa, controversy about her. We'll be talking with Anna Quinlan, noted journalist, and we're going to go dancing.
That's right. It's square dancing. It's not just for squares anymore.
Well, man left.
Yeah.
But first, the news. The early votes in the Virginia caucuses have given a boost to Bill Clinton's campaign. In the Virginia balloting, which continues through Monday night, the Arkansas governor has a comfortable lead. He's followed by uncommitted. Jerry Brown is running a distant third. At the California Democratic Convention Saturday, Brown spoke in a somewhat softer tone. For the first time, he promised to support the party's eventual nominee. A new congressional report documents an alarming spread of AIDS among adolescents. And it says the federal response to the problem amounts to a, quote, national disgrace. 1 in 5 AIDS patients probably contract the disease in their teens. Committee Democrats say moralistic restrictions limit the effectiveness of AIDS education programs. Republicans argue that instead of so-called safe sex, teenagers should be taught abstinence. President F.W. de Klerk ran into more trouble as he campaigned for support for South African racial reform. Rocks and bottles flew during de Klerk's appearance in the township of Mitchell's Plain. One report said he was hit, but not hurt. Anti-apartheid demonstrators shouted him down at the township center, where he had planned to address black and Indian audiences about upcoming biracial elections. And very shortly, we'll be looking at the troubles of South Africa and of Winnie Mandela. A body found on Saturday in East Orange has New Jersey police thinking a serial killer may be at large. 3 other female homicide victims were discovered on Friday. The deaths of 2 others in the same New Jersey community are being investigated. All of the victims were black women, but authorities aren't sure the crimes are connected. And parts of Kansas were pelted by hailstones the size of softballs on Saturday. The heavy weather missiles made going outdoors an adventure in the Kansas City area. Homes, lawn furniture, and vehicles on display at car dealerships took a pounding. Gee. Officials say property damage will run into the millions, but there are no reports of injuries. And finally, this Palm Sunday, the Vatican announces that Pope John Paul II will visit Denver next year. The August 1993 trip will be in celebration of World Youth Day. And that's...
Okay, give them a welcome. Items in the news. There's one small one that came in the wires over the weekend we want to share with you this morning. It's from France. Now, imagine this. You heard about Fighting City Hall. Right. 47-year-old Roger Veron, a waiter, went to the City Hall to get a wedding license. The bureaucrat there checked the record and said, I can't give you a wedding license. He said, asked why. He said, because you're dead. Ooh. He said, our records show that you've been dead for 3 years.
How inconvenient.
How inconvenient. He showed his driver's license. No, bureaucrats are bureaucrats, no license. Roger had to postpone his wedding day because of this, because the bureaucrats wouldn't give the license. He's now seeking legal advice to force the town hall to cough up the wedding and to declare himself officially alive.
And best wishes.
And
well, lucky for his fiancée. Most of them find out afterwards that they married a dead guy.
Thank you, Al.
Works out pretty well that way for her. What about golf? A lot of women and men lose their spouses when the Masters are out there. Well, in fact, here we go. Maybe a lot of rain delays. They had them yesterday, probably have them again today. Dense morning fog, and then a 50% shot of afternoon thunderstorms as well. So looking kind of rough there. Here's what's going on for your day today. Out east, well, we're expecting, again, a weak frontal system going to be bringing showers to the northeast. Behind that front, it's going to be cool, but at least sunny. Heavy thunderstorms and showers working their way down into the west. Also, we've got some heavy thunderstorms in Texas. Severe thunderstorm watch there in effect till 10 a.m. Showers and the wet weather in the northwest, and also moving into the plains. Gorgeous down in the south with plenty of sunshine. That's what's going on around the country. Here's what's happening in your neck of the woods. We're expecting expecting a high today, 63 degrees in the nation's capital. Showers will end there. 75 degrees in Los Angeles. Plenty of sunshine there. 94 in the southwest. We're looking at sunshine there. Showers and 60 in Seattle. It's 8:34. Now here's Garrick.
Thanks, Al. And next this morning, Winnie Mandela, the growing controversy. We'll talk about her as we continue.
In the face of fearsome competition, information technology can be a very powerful weapon. Anderson Consulting can help you find the best way to unleash it.
I just feel more in control of a European luxury sedan.
The Cadillac Seville. With advanced, speed-sensitive suspension, it could change the way you think about American automobiles.
Yoplait, low fat, calcium rich, with active yogurt cultures. It's something 40-year-old Vicky Gentry does every day. Smooth, creamy Yoplait. Do it for you.
For lunch and dinner, why Barnard's, you may ask? Some say it's our convenient drive-up window. Some say it's our friendly tent of staff. But all will agree it's our delicious food. Our delicious, mouth-watering real food. Real chicken, real turkey, and our specialty, real roast beef prepared for your good health and served in a freshly baked Barnard croissant. And with a Barnard sandwich, try our delicious homemade soups and desserts. Why Barnard's? Homemade goodness, fast food convenience. Barnard's, just south of Douglas and Burl Hay Road. For millions of Americans, mowing the lawn can be a real chore. Fortunately, Honda's created the new hydrostatic transmission lawnmower, the first mower that lets you choose whatever speed you need smoothly, no matter what you're cutting around. Look into the new hydrostatic transmission lawnmowers at your Honda dealer. They let you mow without the stop and go.
Honda Power Products for sale at Des Moines Rental, 4711 University.
We often talk about public images and private lives, and there is a controversy in South Africa over Winnie Mandela, the wife of Nelson Mandela, the head of the African National Congress, really the leader of the struggle for freedom for blacks there. There are reports in the last several days that the two may separate. There's a problem within the ANC over Winnie Mandela's actions, new allegations about acts of violence, even involving the act of murder. The story of Winnie and Nelson Mandela is one of love and fortitude, and now apparently, yes, disappointment. They knew it wouldn't be an easy life when they married 33 years ago. Winnie and Nelson Mandela knew it could be dangerous as he helped to lead the fight against apartheid. And so it was, and she was there at the court building as Nelson Mandela was tried, convicted, and sent to prison. And she stood by him raising their two children during 27 years of separation and several years of her banishment to a remote village. In 1985, she was allowed to return home to Soweto outside Johannesburg.
We have no arms. We have stones. We have boxes of matches.
As Nelson Mandela's wife, she was a natural leader. She became a world figure, a celebrated symbol of black resistance to white rule. A familiar face and voice on American television screens.
If I didn't have faith, if I didn't believe in the ideals which had made me lead that kind of life, I might not have survived. It is the faith and the hope that one day I shall be free.
But there was another side of Winnie Mandela beginning to emerge. She had always had a strong will, and now she developed a taste for power. She angered many blacks when she supported necklacing, the burning of opponents with tires filled with gasoline.
With our necklaces, we shall liberate this country.
For Winnie Mandela, the final fall may have come when she organized a group of bodyguards, thugs. She called them her soccer team, but their game was intimidation and violence, even murder. In 1988, a teenage boy died after he and 3 other blacks were kidnapped and beaten by Winnie Mandela's gang in her house, in her presence, according to the charges. Now it was Nelson Mandela's turn to accompany his wife to court for her trial. She was convicted of kidnapping and assault and sentenced to 6 years in prison. She is free on appeal. Well, that's the background of what's been happening there. Let's find out what's going on today, this weekend. In Johannesburg, we're going to talk to journalist Anton Harber, who is the editor of the Weekly Mail in Johannesburg. Good morning, sir. We hear there are more allegations coming out about Winnie Mandela. Can you fill us in briefly what they are?
Yes, there has been a further series of allegations published in this morning's newspapers in South Africa. A man convicted alongside her driver, has now said that he lied to defend her and has further implicated her in the death of Stompie Moketsi. She was previously convicted of kidnapping and assault, but he is directly implicating her in the murder of the child.
There's also another murder, a prominent doctor in Soweto who was killed shortly after Stompie's death there, and the family seems to believe that Winnie Mandela was involved in that. What is the government, what are the police doing about that?
Well, that is an allegation that came out last weekend. The police have reopened the investigation into the death of Dr. Abu Bakr Asfat, who was a very well-known doctor and political activist, and who was murdered. The police have previously said that it was pure robbery. The family and others have always felt it was an assassination. 2 men have been convicted of that murder, and they are currently on death row in South African prisons. But now the investigation has been reopened.
Well, Mr. Harber, you and your paper have been following this closely for a number of years. I mean, how do you react to that? Because here in the United States, we've seen these 2 images now of Winnie Mandela. There's the friendly, warm woman, the leader of the movement there, and yet there's this other image we're seeing. Which is the real one?
The real Winnie Mandela is a tragic victim of 30, 40 years of apartheid repression. It's a tragedy of a woman whose strength and courage were things that helped her survive 3 decades of separation from her husband, but now have led to her downfall. The narrow line between courage, determination, and being thick-skinned and impervious to public criticism has been crossed.
All right, Mr. Harber, let me go now to Boston at our station WBZ, where Randall Robinson is standing by, who is the executive director of Trans-Africa, who was a prime force in pushing for sanctions against South Africa. You've been following this tragedy, and we have to call it that, with Winnie Mandela. Mr. Robinson, how do you react to it? Because she was such an important figure in the movement that you were involved in.
Well, she is a victim of the apartheid system itself, separated her from her husband for 28 years. She's had to carry the torch in South Africa. While she may not be guilty of any crime, she certainly has committed major indiscretions, and I think her star is falling in the ANC. Last year, she was crushed in her bid to head the Women's League, lost by 2-1, and most of the ANC high echelon people, save Mr. Mandela, did not attend the end of her trial. So I think politically she's suffering, although I think it is likely that she will never spend any time in jail. The appeals will go on far longer than the political negotiation process.
Well, Mr. Robinson, let me follow up on this point. You say she may not have committed any crimes. You said, quote, they may have been indiscretions where she was convicted of kidnapping and assault. We've heard what Mr. Harber has been saying about the new testimony in terms of the murder of the young Stompie boy.
No,
how do you call these indiscretions?
I'm simply saying that one can't know under the South African system of justice whether a crime was committed or not. We're talking about a system with no juries, all white judges named by the parliament, controlled by the parliament. There's no Marbury v. Madison in South Africa, and there's no independent judiciary. So the judicial process in South Africa is flawed. Well, she may have committed crimes, but there will be no way to determine that under the South African system of justice.
Well, going back to Johannesburg, Anton Harber, now you're sympathetic to the cause of Winnie Mandela, Nelson Mandela. Do you agree with Mr. Robinson's assessment of the judiciary there and what the facts on the ground are with Winnie?
I think to call them indiscretions is extremely generous. One is talking about kidnap, assault, and murder. I think there clearly are fundamental problems with our judicial system in South Africa. But the ANC itself, Nelson Mandela himself, has taken the attitude the law must take its course. He has not called into question the validity of the court that has convicted her. I don't think there's any doubt in the public mind that there are major crimes involved here which need to be dealt with properly by the organization.
And that's in the public mind, both in the black community as well as the white. Gentlemen, Mr. Harbour and Randall Robinson, thank you for being with us. We'll continue here in just a moment.
It's Grand Central Station. It's Carnegie Hall. It's a late-night bistro and a banquet hall for 50. It's a GE Monogram kitchen. With GE Monogram appliances of such dramatic beauty and original style, they have no equal. So with Monogram appliances, your kitchen can be everything you ever dreamed it could be. Because you may call it a kitchen, but at GE, we know it's really your living room.
You could ease up a little. Table for two in about 5 minutes. Mr. Douglas, I have your table.
But you're not gonna. You could stop being a perfectionist. But you're not gonna. You're not gonna change because of heartburn, and you don't have to. There's something new that's like no ordinary antacid. New Maalox Heartburn Relief. It stops the burning and helps keep it from coming back. So get on with life like you're gonna live it. New Maalox Heartburn Relief is made for you.
Remember when summer meant family vacations and road stops at the restaurant with the big Happy Chef outside? There's still a friendly Happy Chef waiting for you. Happy Chef has something special for everybody. For a limited time, enjoy a free piece of pie when you purchase any dinner or budget dinner from our menu. Choose from French silk, hot Dutch apple, lemon meringue, and more. So bring the family to Happy Chef today. Remember, we offer discounts for senior citizens too. Happy Chef. With 8 locations in central Iowa, there's one near you.
Since 1866, Kurt's Hardware has worked. For contractors, home builders, lumber yards, manufacturers, and government agencies, Kurt's Hardware is your #1 hardware and tool distributor. Come to Kurt's Hardware when you're looking for hard-to-find tools, hardware, building supplies, and skilled advice. Experience counts and it shows at Kurt's. You come to Kurt's when you've got questions, when you want to buy in volume, when you want to get it done right the first time. Kurt's on Keogh, just north of the freeway.
A number of brilliant writers this week won the Grand Slam of Journalism, a Pulitzer Prize. But only one of them produces the kind of work that people tear out of the paper and tape to the fridge. Her name is Anna Quindlen. Her column in the New York Times, Public and Private, is widely syndicated. So who is she? What does she stand for? And what makes her so different?
Some of the columnists I read take what I think of as the voice of God approach. I picture them getting up every morning, looking in the mirror and saying something like, "Capital punishment, damn it. It's wrong." Then they shave. I don't shave and I don't think like that. I get up...
Anna Quindlen doesn't do a lot of things the usual way. When she was just 31, she was deputy managing editor of the New York Times, in line to rise higher than any woman ever at America's most prestigious newspaper. So she quit, wanted time to raise her kids. The Times wanted her so badly, they offered her a column on the op-ed page. She said, "Fine, I'll write about what matters to me. From home." Home is not inside the Beltway or in an Upper East Side co-op. It's a brownstone in unfashionable Hoboken, New Jersey, from where Anna Quindlen has become one of the most influential journalists in America.
The president will get written about, even if I don't write about him. Congress will get written about. The homeless, the poor, abortion, contraception, kids, maybe not. So that there's a whole area that I sort of think of as mine, and it's mine in part because they're the issues that make my heart beat faster, and it's mine in part because I can write about them differently. Politically, too, but in columns, up until a certain point, we had a tendency to think of things as black and white. I think most people wind up plumbing the gray areas. I mean, plumbing the grays is what advances knowledge. Black and white positions do nothing except position people.
Is that what women do more than men?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I probably could get a column out of every telephone conversation I have with a good female friend. And then
it hasn't all been easy. When Quindlen was a freshman in college, her mother died. She had to raise her 4 younger brothers and sisters. She is an Irish-Italian Catholic who got kicked out of convent school and whose views on abortion ensure that she is regularly denounced from many pulpits.
I don't like that. I mean, I went to parochial school. Adrenaline surges through my body when a nun looks at me cross-eyed. So I don't like that, but I am confident in my conscience about all of these issues. And that really is ultimately the most important thing to me.
And that is something the church taught you?
Yes, that's definitely something the church taught me. I learned a great deal from the church. I learned a great deal about loving people, service to others, tolerance. A lot of what's in all of these columns that have nothing to do with Catholicism have everything to do with Catholicism.
I'm sure many women tell you this, but I feel an incredible kinship for what you write.
Quinlan's feminism is as unorthodox and as heartfelt as her Catholicism.
I have a 3-year-old daughter, and she's feisty, and she's smart, and she keeps up with her brothers. But I look at her sometimes and think, you know, when are the teachers going to start to ignore your questions in school? When are they going to start to steer you towards English as opposed to math and science? Okay, well, here's the deal. I want to take the kids to school before I go to Ball State.
Quinlan juggles her life much like she does her column. It's a constant balance between public and private.
I guess the thing that you always give up is that you can't do any of it 100%. You have it all. Do you just hate that? Nah. People think you have it all. You have a lovely family. Right. And the best job in America. Well, you can't underestimate the luck factor. I mean, I have a lovely family. I could have just as easily had fertility problems. I could have just as easily not met the right guy at the right time. So there's an enormous luck factor there. And ditto with the job. I mean, part of the job is a function of the fact that I'm a woman. They needed a woman on that page. God bless them. They need even more women on that page. I'll be happy to have sisters.
A woman who's always exercising her intellect. Next, we're going to exercise your spirit.
At BASF, we don't make the house, we make it warmer. We don't make the suit, we make it racier. We don't make the meal, we make it healthier. We don't make the music, we make it clearer. At BASF, we don't make a lot of the products you buy. We make a lot of the products you buy better. BASF.
Only one adult cereal could be this much fun to eat. Basic for a colorful mix of lightly toasted flakes, sweet and tangy fruits, and crunchy nuts. Splash on cold milk and you get something tasty from each of the 4 food groups. Basic for the adult cereal, with a taste that never grew up.
Now there's another way to plug into freshness. New Glade plug-in shell.
Plug it in, plug it in.
A new shell design and 2 new fresh scents.
Plug it in, plug it in.
It gently warms this refill cartridge for 30 days of freshness.
Freshen up the air. Freshen everywhere. Plug it in, plug it in.
Glade plug-ins and new Glade plug-in shell.
Plug it in.
From S.C. Johnson Wax.
This is an important message for U.S. veterans. Whether you served during peacetime or war and are currently age 50 to 69, call this number now for free information about a veterans-only term life plan that costs just $1 a week. Benefits are paid from the first day. There is no waiting period for coverage to begin, and benefits are guaranteed never to go down. Term life insurance for $1 a week. Call this number now for free information from Veterans Life.
And it's time for dancing class right now. Now Roker is going to have some advice for those who aren't Fred Astaire, which includes most of us.
You got it, Garrick. You probably took this in elementary school and then forgot about it. But when somebody says square dancing, you most likely have to fight to keep from rolling your eyes. But guess what? It's back. When someone says square dancing, this might be the picture that springs to mind. Dancing for squares, generally in the western part of the United States. Well, get ready to change your mind. Welcome to square dancing in the 90s. And forget about it being confined to places where they say howdy and y'all. For example, this is Rockville Center, just a quick do-si-do from New York City. In fact, you can find square dancing in every state of the Union, as well as in 50 countries around the world.
Square dancing is a big family. No matter where you go in this country, you can find some place to square dance.
Lee Kopman has been calling square dances for almost 35 years. What started out as a way to supplement his teacher's salary has turned into an all-encompassing passion. He calls 7 nights a week and travels 46 weekends a year.
I love to call. I don't care what level I call, whether I'm calling for beginners, advanced dancers. It's always an up for me. I live with it every single minute of the day. And I never get tired of doing it.
Mornings are spent at home preparing dance steps with checker pieces. Using this old-fashioned approach, Lee has created more than 300 new steps. Seems square dancing is in every part of Lee Kopman's life. Daughter Phyllis, for example, included it in her wedding. And son Steve is following in his father's somewhat complicated footsteps.
Even though I'm 700 miles away living, to be able to see him once a month and share that kind of warmth and relationship is a great feeling. I want you to practice. He is the best caller in the world. There's nobody better.
He must be. Lee's traveled the world, calling in Japan, England, Sweden, and recently Germany. And yes, while music may be the universal language, English is the universal language for square dancing. And Alaman left in Japan means the same as it does on the south side of Chicago.
Left Alaman, come back. You promenade, keep going, don't stop, don't slow down.
You don't have time to have problems inside of here because you have to think, you have to realize that you have a left hand and a right hand and not two left hands.
You pass through and left Alaman, come on, left and right, left right.
Swersey Norris teaches and calls for Swersey Squares, one of the 4 black square dancing clubs in Chicago. Costs $2 to get in, 4 if there's an out-of-town caller.
It's fun. Just getting to know people. We all have one thing in common. We like to dance. I'll take her home. Every once in a while, they like to hear a little boogie, little blues. My dancers do. You start through, pass through, trade by swing. You
It's a hobby. It's a release, camaraderie.
And they have so much fun doing it.
Now listen carefully.
As you might imagine, you just can't get out on the floor and spin your partner with reckless abandon.
Extend to the girls, if you will.
6 to 8 months worth of lessons will get you the basics, but at the advanced level, we're talking over 1,000 different steps to memorize.
No matter how rotten a day you've had at work, you have to forget it because you must concentrate on the dancing. And it's very good physical exercise, and the sociability is wonderful, really.
But the square dance of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. Lee Kopman says once you're in, you and possibly others around you will be hooked. And if you want to find the Square Dance Club in your area, just look under your yellow pages, under social organizations. Chances are you will find one there.
I didn't see you out on that dance floor.
Well, they made me not do it. They paid me not to do it. It was just, I tried, and it was just too ugly. It was too ugly, and they stopped.
You didn't like it in the first
No,
place.
it was fun, but I've got a bad name.
That warned you, yes. Now, it's great fun, but to be really a good caller, you have to learn a new language. You have to do it without moving your lips too much, right?
That's right. You have to talk so fast, you don't have time to move your lips.
That's right.
But there are lots of languages involved.
Yes, Alaman comes from French.
Right.
Yes, give the hand. We'll be back with news and weather as we continue.
A message to everyone who flies from American Airlines. Starting Monday, April 13th, American introduces a dramatic new pricing program that brings true value back to air travel. It all begins with American's new Anytime Fare for Business. which saves you 38% off today's full coach fare. Any day, on any American or American Eagle domestic flight, with no advance purchase required. For leisure travel, you can save even more with our new 7-day and 21-day plan ahead fares. While these fares are non-refundable, they are now reusable. Finally, our new first-class fare saves you 20 to 50% throughout the continental U.S. This is not a sale. This is a straightforward pricing approach that has been long overdue in the airline industry. A new way of doing business from American Airlines, the one airline bringing value back to air travel.
If you watch only one news show this week, this story could change the way you love and the way you live. In some countries, it's already killed hundreds of thousands. Now, heterosexual AIDS threatens America like never before.
You can be sure of what the previous history of their partners was.
A Dateline NBC you can't miss. Tuesday.
Look for springtime savings this week at Walgreens. Get a great price and a close shave with a Gillette Sensor Razor. Just $2.99. Pringles snacks are on sale too. Choose from these great flavors, just 99 cents a can. And bring in your Easter holiday film and get a second set of regular or supersized photos for just a nickel a print. When you're looking for savings, selection, and value, look to Walgreens.
Slumberland's Mattress Plus means a great service policy, guaranteed low prices, next day delivery guaranteed. We'll haul away your old mattress. And Mattress Plus means we'll exchange it or buy it back if you're not totally satisfied. And right now, don't miss April's greatest mattress and recliner sale. Save 20 to 50% on every recliner. Over 100 on sale starting at just $169. Every mattress is reduced 30 to 60%. Twins from just $39 each piece. Even a special bonus with select brands. But hurry, sale ends Monday at Slumberland Furniture.
We're back with Sunday Today. Time for a news update.
Starting overseas, Mary Alstein, this country, first of all, I should say, before we go overseas, a report issued last night, a congressional committee describes the federal response to the problem of AIDS among adolescents as a, quote, national disgrace. AIDS among teenagers has increased by 70% in the past 2 years, but committee Democrats complain that an overly moralistic approach sharply limits the effectiveness of federal AIDS education programs. Colorado Democrat Patricia Schroeder says a more realistic attitude is called for.
We love little kids. We love families. Youth and adolescence scares us to death. And we've been a society of total denial of the risky behavior of teens. Whether it's drinking or drugs or smoking or sex, anything else, we just keep pretending like it's not happening.
And now we turn overseas. United Nations teams are in Iraq this day to destroy what is left of Saddam Hussein's nuclear and chemical weapons capacity. Our correspondent Tom Aspel is following this unfinished business of the Persian Gulf War and joins us this morning from Baghdad. Tom, is Saddam Hussein coming clean now and really disclosing all of this nuclear capacity?
Well, it's difficult to say, Garrick. Certainly over the current complex at Al Athia, 25 miles south of Baghdad, the United Nations inspections teams were surprised to find the development program so far along there. And indeed, the Iraqis were insisting right up until last week that those facilities could be used for civilian purposes. However, now the UN inspectors have made the Iraqis back down. They have started destroying some of the equipment inside the Al Athia complex, primarily used to produce tungsten carbide for a relatively low technology nuclear device, and also some detonating testing facilities there, also for a nuclear device. So the UN inspectors will go ahead and destroy this site totally, but they're not sure of exactly what other facilities remain inside the country, and it's a continuing search, Garrick.
Now, the other problem there, the conflict, is in the northern part of Iraq, where Iraqi Air Force planes are forbidden by the UN to fly in those Kurdish-controlled inhabited areas. We have reports now that for 4 days now, Iraqi planes are indeed flying in that region. What does that mean, and what's going to happen?
Well, so far there's been no official acknowledgement from the Iraqis that they have indeed made those flights, although we believe that on 4 or 5 successive days they did put up combat airplanes. Perhaps one reason because Iranian planes raided some Iranian opposition groups inside Iraqi territory up in that area there. The Iraqis have complained on a frequent basis to the United Nations about UN overflights of the country, and the U.S. has come back and said that it's up to the Iraqis to leave these flights alone. So at the moment, we just need to wait and see whether the Iraqis are indeed going to continue to put their fixed-wing aircraft up in that area. So far, there's no sign of it for the last 2 days, but indeed, it's a bit of a standoff up there, really.
All right, many standoffs there in Iraq. Tom Aspel in Baghdad, thanks for your report. Going to Europe now, and Disney characters, complete with continental accents, went on parade near Paris today. The traffic chaos predicted for the opening of Euro Disney didn't develop. Dennis Murphy reports on the opening of the enormous new theme park there.
The train pulled into the station. On board, Mickey and his boss, Disney chairman Michael Eisner. The start of business at a $4.4 billion gamble that Europe will buy the Disney touch. The first family through the gates, the Goyers of Paris, were given a lifetime free pass. 8-year-old Gorka Goyer rode up Main Street with Eisner and Mickey as honorary Grand Marshal. Some French called Euro Disneyland an attack on French culture, but the mobs poured in anyway at $40 a head. First impressions were positive.
Super.
Oui, super. Really great.
Europe has cathedrals and a Sistine ceiling, but nothing like this. The rides, most of them familiar, are up and running. Fast food is served slowly, a glitch Disney needs to work out. Some parents were Mickey'd out before noon, not a magic experience for all. Disney opened the park with a TV show seen in 30 countries. The weekend preview party cost $10 million. There were stars, Michael J. Fox, Eddie Murphy, whose daughter traded tweaks on the nose with one of the owners. Cher sang. The attacks from the French right and left were drowned in opening glitter.
The intellectuals and maybe even the communists, when they bring their children to Euro Disney, will have a good time.
Disney is expecting 11 million visitors at the Kingdom Magique the first year. They say they'll be building on this site until the year 2017. Voila. Dennis Murphy, NBC News, Marne-la-Vallée, France.
Can you imagine having a lifetime pass to Disney World, Euro Disney? That little kid, that French boy is going to be able to go there for the next 50, 60 years.
Yippee. You know, they have a Wild West show, a Buffalo Bill Wild West show there that they don't have anywhere in this country?
Really?
At Disney Park?
Well, Buffalo Bill was a big hit in Europe when he took his show, his Wild West show there in the early part of the century.
There you go.
Everything old is new again.
How's the weather, buddy?
Not too bad. We're going to take a look at the week ahead. French love Jerry Lewis, and they're complaining about that. Anyway, you can see week's temps, cold in the northeast, cool around the Great Lakes, mid-Atlantic states, going to be mild out west, and down in the southwest, nice and hot. And as far as your precipitation is concerned, you will see it'll be dry in the northeast, scattered showers in the east on into the Great Lakes, normal conditions up to the north, but it'll be wet in the northern plains and on into the parts of Texas, also the northwest, dry out in the southwest. Not good news for their drought situation. That's what's going on around the country. Here's what's happening in your neck of the woods. We're expecting a high today of 63 degrees in the nation's capital. Start to see some showers ending there. Hopefully a little sunshine by afternoon, otherwise 57 in New York City. 75 in Los Angeles and sunshine, 44 in Chicago. And that's the weather for the week ahead.
Okay, Al. And next up, Caterpillar. They make earth-moving equipment. Now they're shaping the future of American labor and management. That's next.
8 years ago, BMW started a driving school in America.
The better a car feels to you, the better a car is engineered.
For BMW, a natural extension of an inherent belief.
The better driver you become.
That's quite a feeling to be able to go around a corner like that.
A belief that a well-engineered automobile should do more than simply improve the driver's image.
And I felt like I had control of the car instead of the car having control of me.
A better driver. The ultimate goal of the ultimate driving machine.
Microsoft Word for Windows is so easy, it just takes one click to make your work look twice as good. Microsoft Word, the word processor for Windows. We'd like to point out that for 10 million people, Microsoft Windows is an easier way to use their PCs. We'd now like to point out how easy it is to see for yourself. Just call 1-800-882-2000.
lunch and dinner. Why Barnard's, you may ask? Some say it's our convenient drive-up window. Some say it's our friendly, attentive staff. But all will agree it's our delicious food. Our delicious, mouth-watering real food. Real chicken, real turkey, and our specialty, real roast beef prepared for your good health and served in a freshly baked Barnard croissant. And with a Barnard sandwich, try our delicious homemade soups and desserts. Why Barnard's? Homemade goodness, fast food convenience. Barnard's, just south of Douglas and Burl Hay Road.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies often carry cold germs. A purple mountain's majesty might be covered with poison ivy. So Walgreens offers 24-hour service, prescription savings, and over 1,600 satellite-linked locations. As America's leading pharmacy, Walgreens covers your needs from sea to shining sea, not to mention nose to shining nose. Walgreens, the pharmacy America trusts.
There are labor management disputes, the normal ones over wages, and there are also those disputes and conflicts which really could be turning points in the relationship between those who are the employers and those who are the employees. And so it is with Caterpillar, the big earth-moving company, highly competitive around the world. But now for 5 months, 12,600 of its workers have been out on strike, and the dispute is over more than just wages. There are certain basic principles as far as both sides see. We're going to talk about that with some of the people who are involved in the front lines of the dispute. But first, to get some background, Mike Betcher in Peoria shows us what is happening there.
In a crowd, they speak with one mind.
I couldn't go in there and hold my head up high.
Together, they work towards one purpose.
No way we're crossing. Staying out and staying solid.
Numbers give them strength, and all but a few hundred have stayed on the picket line, refusing to heed a back-to-work ultimatum from Caterpillar, which demanded they return to work or lose their jobs. But away from the crowd, Terry Thomas and his family speak as individuals, caught in the middle of a critical battle between labor and management. They are pressured by a company seeking concessions and a union which is fighting for its survival. Eunice Thomas is giving piano lessons to bring in some income while her husband is out on strike. But the family has sold almost everything it can to help keep the house payments current. The Thomases are running out of things to sell and running out of patience with their company and their union.
The top people they're not touched by it like we are. They don't realize that just because we're out on strike, that doesn't mean our kids are going to stop growing out of their clothes.
If I had a multi-billion-dollar business, which Caterpillar is, I certainly would want to save that business. And I would want to get my men at that bargaining table. And the union, if they want to save the union, because if they don't start doing something rapidly, they're going to divide the union. So here you're going to divide and destroy two operations in one whack.
One of those who crossed the picket line told Peoria affiliate WEEK that he had to return to work in order to feed his family. He asked to remain anonymous.
The fear of losing my job is a lot greater than the fear of getting beat up or shot. Because if they don't kill me, I'll heal. But if I lose my job, I can't get enough.
Other workers who gather on a fellow striker's front porch each morning resent being caught in the middle of a high-stakes match between labor and management.
We are a guinea pig for not just Caterpillar, but for all of the U.S. and all over. I think everybody is watching us. This is going to set a precedent as what is going to happen to our unions.
Each one of us knows that eventually we will go back, okay? But we have to make peace with ourselves, we have to make peace with our conscience, and we have to just make a decision and stick with it.
To me, Caterpillar has committed the ultimate sin, threatening my job to support my wife and 3 kids. And I can't forgive him for that.
In past times, it was easier for a worker to be loyal to his company, union, and family. In Peoria these days, hardly a person can claim allegiance to all.
Hang together, guys!
For Sunday Today, Mike Betcher, NBC News, Peoria.
And 2 of the workers we just saw in Mike's report there from Peoria are now with us. We have Dave Cease and Earl Stoltz. Good morning, gentlemen. Let's follow up on this. How long have you been with Caterpillar?
18 and a half years.
27 years.
All right. And you're earning, what, about $18 an hour?
Right at $19 an hour with a nice shift bonus, yes.
Now, a lot of people listening, watching here say, hey, you guys have it made, right?
Yes, sir.
So what do you say to them when you're
remains, sir, that the wages and the benefits are not the issue. The main issue is the company is trying to take away our job security.
And that's what's most important to you?
That's the most important thing to me, is our job security, and they're trying to totally dilute our rights.
Because actually, you're right. The difference in the wages is about, what, $40,000 a year versus $39,000 a year. Small differences in pensions.
Very small.
But the argument the company is making is, listen, the union shouldn't have a right to what they call a pattern agreement. What they negotiate with Deere and company shouldn't be the same for Caterpillar, because Caterpillar is out there in the world marketplace. It's competing with Komatsu companies in Japan and elsewhere, and therefore, you and your wage levels have to be competitive. Do you buy that?
To a certain extent. I just want the company to be fair. If they're making a profit, fine, they should pay us as well. If they're losing money, then we'd have to talk about it.
But they're saying times are changing.
Well, they are changing.
They are changing, and you know that.
Sure are.
And you build a good product.
Sure.
So do you accept or recognize what they are saying, that we have to be more competitive, to be blunt? And as we export, or you export Caterpillar earth-moving equipment, in effect, they may be importing wage levels from overseas.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
But you accept it?
I accept. We might have to.
You, Earl?
Caterpillar Incorporated went on public record to say that it was not that they could not afford the agreement that the UAW is trying to win for us. It's just that they wouldn't give it to us because they had to be globally competitive.
No.
They have yet to give us a definition of global competitiveness.
Now, they say that 59% of the revenue of Caterpillar comes from outside of the United States, so that global marketplace is clearly very important. But to come back to Peoria and to you fellows and to your colleagues there, again, when you see some of them, and there are a few hundred who have crossed that line, have gone back in, when you see them facing that decision and going back in today, tomorrow perhaps, how do you react? What do you think of them and their motives? Earl?
That is a personal decision that only the employee himself can make. It can't be made by his wife, his family, or myself, or anyone else. It is his right to provide for his family as best he can, and it's his decision to make if and when he does go back.
And Dave, you say they're really trying to weaken the union. The UAW, the United Auto Workers, is a major, still a strong union in this country. If it doesn't prevail here, what do you see happening?
I see this happen in every union in the United States. The decline, we'll still have a union, but it won't be the power that we have now.
All right, hold the thought right now. We're going to continue to get some more expert opinion on what this really means and what it could lead to as we continue talking about Caterpillar and whether or not to cross that picket line. We'll be right back.
I can get in 72 hours.
I wouldn't trust my car past the city limits.
For the way you travel today more than ever, the Smart Money is on budget. Now at Budget, get a Lincoln or minivan with unlimited mileage for just $199 per week. The Smart Money is on budget.
To protect the lives of firefighters, DuPont developed a remarkable fire-resistant fiber for their clothing called Nomex. But perhaps even more remarkable is how it protects those who never even wear it. At DuPont, we make the things that make a difference.
Hop into Merle Hay Mall. We have exactly what you're looking for. Command Performance is hair care for the whole family with 13 product lines including Paul Mitchell, Redken, and Nexus. Get cuts, coloring, and perms with help from the Computer Images System and Command Performance. It's Tully's for Men's Spring Sale. $185 blazers are now $148, and our entire stock of suits is 20% off at Tully's. Do the bunny shop through Easter at Merle Hay Mall.
Ragu introduces Chicken Tonight Simmer Sauces, and suddenly everybody's saying,
I feel like chicken tonight, like chicken tonight, chicken tonight.
Choose from 6 new sauces. Each one's made with real vegetables and herbs, so you can make dishes like country French chicken and chicken cacciatore. Just brown the chicken, simmer, and serve.
I feel like chicken tonight, like chicken tonight,
New Chicken Tonight simmer sauces from Ragu.
Chicken Tonight.
Find out what a difference you can make. Join the Volunteer Connection.
We'll continue our conversation about the strike at Caterpillar and what it really means, not just for the company, but for the nation. And joining those present, we're going to talk to two experts in the field. Professor Leo Choi of Rutgers University is a labor economics professor with much experience in that field. And in San Francisco, at our KRON studios, there is Professor Harley Shaken of the University of California at San Diego. Professor Choi, let's start with you first of all. You hear what Dave and Earl are saying here, what the UAW is doing. Are they doing the right thing?
The UAW is not doing the right thing at all. You see, you've got an anti-market force that is the proposal for pattern bargaining, which takes the idea that you can lift wages out of competition. That's just not the case. There are other factors involved. The company, as you pointed out in your discussion, is dependent upon world markets, so that they are out of touch, insofar as I am concerned.
Well, now, what are the real issues here? The two sides aren't that far apart, so what's the real agenda?
The real agenda is exactly this, that in pushing pattern bargaining, the union is out of touch with the market. The company, by being driven by market considerations, is in touch with reality, I would say.
Well, Professor Shaken, in San Francisco, is what is happening here really a basic new development? That is Caterpillar, which wants those export markets and has a part of that market, really telling workers, hey, you're going to have to work at the same wage level as somebody in Asia.
Well, I think it really is a new development because Caterpillar has based its success in the past on high productivity, high quality, and innovation. It's never been the lowest wage producer in this industry, and it's always succeeded and beat the Japanese back in an industry that's hotly competitive. So in that sense, wages really aren't the issue. It's a vision of how Caterpillar will compete in the future and really about how U.S. manufacturing will compete. Will it be based on high productivity, or will it be based on lower wages, busting unions, and a range of other things that could really come back and haunt the company in the future? I think what's at issue isn't so much pattern bargaining as who sets the pattern, whether that's set by domestic U.S. firms or whether it's set in Korea or Mexico or elsewhere in the world in the future. And that, I think, has enormous implications for the U.S. economy.
Professor Shaken's brought up all the issues. Can you answer that question? Is this going to make a difference in how products are made and where they're made?
It could make some difference, of course, but I think it's clear that the Caterpillar company, while it is competitive, the point is if it is made to toe a line to which it cannot adhere in the world market, is bound to suffer. I'd like to add on a few other points, if I may. We have the striker replacement issue involved here as well. That proposal is I think, passed the House of Representatives, but has been stopped in the Senate, and the President has said he would defeat it. The reasons I think that this is not a good proposal, by the way, are that the present law, which was adopted by the Supreme Court, in fact, in a decision in 1938, says that you have an adversarial relationship between organized labor and management. If the management is not able to combat the strike is an attempt to shut down and make the employer concede. The proposed law would take that away from them, so that you would change the balance of power in the labor market.
Well, Professor Shaken, going back to you and talking about, Earl and Dave, who are sitting here listening patiently, I think, are perhaps very concerned about what their futures are going to be like. There is something called human capital. It's not just all these high-tech machines. They have a lot of experience, 18 years or so there at Caterpillar. Isn't the company putting something at risk by bringing in new workers there and losing their talents?
Oh, I think the company could be doing something that's enormously foolish and the most harmful thing that it could do in terms of its competitiveness. And I think it's ironic that this strike, or that the lockout, or initially and now the strike, is being argued in terms of Caterpillar's competitiveness, because if it loses this workforce, they are in fact irreplaceable. Caterpillar has recently invested in $2 billion of high-tech equipment. And the real issue isn't whether they pay $1 or $2 more or less, it's how can they get that equipment to run productively. If they lose this workforce, I think they will be devastated for years to come, and it's in fact the riskiest thing they could do in terms of their competitiveness. But in terms of a company of Caterpillar's stature and visibility resorting to non-union workers, in effect firing a workforce, sets the worst possible precedent for labor relations in general. In effect, it replaces collective bargaining with unilateral ultimatums. It's a kind of situation where if Caterpillar succeeds, then I think it will invite other firms to essentially give their workers an offer and on that basis, if the offer is ultimately not accepted, replace the workforce. In a high-tech age, that's simply not going to work, and I think will impair competitiveness.
Tomorrow, they start talking again, or at least they've announced they're talking. Do you have any hopes, one way or the other? What do you think?
Well, I have a lot of hope. Whether anything will come out of it, I really can't tell you.
Do you believe that something will come out of it?
I'd like to.
It all depends on whether the company and the union are willing to sit down and bargain in good faith, whether there's give and take on both sides. If you get one side or the other that are bullheaded, then we are at impasse.
But Earl and Dave, you know, as you heard from the professor, that you are important to that company, and they probably know that you are important too, and we all wish you good luck, and that somehow a solution can be found here, and that the strike can end, and Caterpillar can compete with your help. Thanks for being with us, professors. Thanks also. We'll continue in just a moment.
Imagine your refrigerator with bigger door shelves for bigger bottles, with leftovers left in quick-serve trays for leftover space, more space, nearly 27 cubic feet, and a door in the door for things you use more. Imagine GE's Space Center 27.
America's best-selling luxury automobile doesn't come from Europe or Japan. It's the Cadillac DeVille. Continuous improvement has made the DeVille more powerful, more comfortable, and now more affordable, with a $1,500 cash bonus direct from Cadillac. Or if you prefer, special smart lease terms are also available. Now is the time to discover why more Americans prefer the Cadillac DeVille to any other luxury automobile.
If you think diamonds are a girl's only best friend, watch what Joseph's does with pearls. The alluring, mysterious pearl, born from exotic waters, miracles of perfection, with an inner glow that would make an oyster blush. If you thought diamonds were a girl's only best friend, come gather our pearls. Joseph's, jeweler since 1871.
For lunch and dinner, why Barnard's, you may ask? Some say it's our convenient drive-up window. Some say it's our friendly, attentive staff. But all will agree it's our delicious food. Our delicious, mouth-watering real food. Real chicken, real turkey, and our specialty, real roast beef prepared for your good health and served in a freshly baked Barnard croissant. And with a Barnard sandwich, try our delicious homemade soups and desserts. Why Barnard's? Homemade goodness, fast food convenience. Barnard's, just south of Douglas and Burl Hay Road.
For the end of 90 minutes this morning, fascinating talking to those fellows from Caterpillar, because there's so much more at stake here than just their wage levels. That's going to be in the news this coming week. Also coming up on Meet the Press with Tim Russert and company, the guest is going to be Brent Scowcroft, the President's National Security Advisor. And tomorrow morning?
Tomorrow morning on Today, H. Ross Perot and Raul Julia will be the guest. That'll be interesting.
And tonight on NBC Nightly News, it's Mary Alice Williams, because I am taking a slide for a few days.
He won't tell us where he's going, but we're going to call.
Okay. Now, as we indicated earlier in the program, this is a special day. It's April the 13th. 1742 was the first performance of Georg Friedrich Handel's The Messiah, popular at Christmas time, also at Easter time, one of the great works.
A charity concert on the banks of the Liffey in Dublin, where it was received well, though coolly in England.
Well, it's still received well. We leave you tonight, the St. Thomas Choir, and hallelujah to all. We'll see you next Sunday.
This week, meet H. Ross Perot. Could he be our next president? Plus an exclusive interview with Elizabeth Taylor and revealing new details on Marilyn Monroe's life. This week on Today.
She had 2 husbands too many.
I loved Truman when I married him.
So why did she marry Michael 2 days later?
What's the penalty for bigamy?
10 years. The bigamy bust on the next A Closer.
People say Ember's steak and eggs platter is the best they've ever had. Two farm fresh eggs, 3 buttermilk pancakes, hashed brown potatoes, and a USDA choice sirloin steak, only $3.99. Come and see if you don't agree. There's only one place for food this good. Embers. Only Embers.
Look for springtime savings this week at Walgreens. Get a great price and a close shave with the Gillette Sensor Razor. Just $2.99. Pringles snacks are on sale too. Choose from these great flavors, just 99 cents a can. And bring in your Easter holiday film and get a second set of regular or supersized photos for just a nickel a print. When you're looking for savings, selection, and value, look to Walgreens.
Rick Silvestrini and News Center 13, where the news comes first 24 hours a day.
Hello again, I'm Tim Russert, and this is Meet the Press.